It's not always about football. It's also about personality and narrative. We want stories that give greater emotional context to the play on the field. Kurt Warner going from groceries to Super Bowl MVP. Brett Favre playing his best football in honor of his late father. Johnny Manziel on the comeback trail of being a spoiled rich kid. What are those stories in the XFL? Who are these players? Which athletes are giving us the best reason to root for them or their teams? The tales of redemption, perseverance, and triumph. The best player stories in the XFL are coming up right after this.
This just in. I'm Dick Clippers from 7.5 on your side, and we have a huge announcement. Manscaped, the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming, has just announced their new tool to trim down your pubic hair safely and securely. Yes, as the feature item of the Perfect Package Essentials Kit, the Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof trimmer has just been released. Let's shoot it over to me in the bathroom.
Yes, Dick, the Lawnmower 3.0 has an improved ergonomic design complete with side grips, uses the same fantastic ceramic non-rusting blade, and is now rated at 7,000 RPM with quiet stroke technology.
Wow, Dick, I love quiet stroke technology.
Yeah, and that's not all. The new 600 mAh battery extends the life up to 90 minutes, has a new ergonomic charger base, and has a built-in LED.
That's incredible, Dick. Tell me where I can get one of these.
Well, Dick, you can go to manscaped.com, use the code 5points and get 20% off your order of the Perfect Package 3.0 and get free shipping. And if you sign up as a subscriber, you'll get refill blades and 2 free gifts.
Fantastic reporting as always. I'm going to manscaped.com and using code 5points for 20% off right as we speak. That's a wrap? Okay.
You'll probably recognize Shawn Oakman best as a meme. The chiseled giant standing statuesque and intimidating, awaiting the coin toss in AT&T Stadium. After a decorated career as an edge rusher at Baylor, Oakman was projected to be a first-round pick in the NFL. But just 2 weeks prior to the 2016 NFL Draft, Oakman was charged with sexual assault, which removed him from all 32 teams' draft board. With the NFL no longer an option, Oakman toiled in the American Arena League in 2018, then the Champions Indoor League, then the Spring League, and back another time with the American Arena League. After floating around in limbo for 3 years in football and the legal system, Oakman was officially found not guilty in February of 2019, ending a long and arduous legal battle for the former Baylor standout. A free man, Oakman was drafted by the LA Wildcats, cut and re-signed prior to the start of the season. After one game, Oakman recorded 1 sack against the Houston Roughnecks, cementing another step of his comeback and perhaps the stepping stone on his way to the NFL. A league he should have been playing in for the past 4 seasons. Oakman's teammate on defense, linebacker Trey Williams, also had a long path back to professional football. Williams, once an all-SEC standout at Auburn, was in a much different profession before the XFL. Unlike Oakman, though, Williams had gotten a taste of the NFL. During his senior season at Auburn, Williams was a surefire draft pick until 2 games into the season when he injured his shoulder, which cost him 3 games and the ability to finish several others. Williams still believed he would be picked and watched the draft with 20 friends and family members at his home in Alabama, but he never got the call. Williams had brief stints with the Jets, Bucks, and Lions, but all 3 times his injury was considered too debilitating and led to his release. In his short time with the Bucks, team doctors also discovered a herniated disc in his neck that required surgery. "I was cut 3 times already, and I haven't put cleats and a helmet on and hit somebody," Williams told the LA Times. At that point, he had found a new life working as an operations manager for a FedEx warehouse in South Haven, Mississippi. Williams went through the motions, as his partner described it, until one day when he got a voicemail from Pepper Johnson, former defensive coordinator of the LA Wildcats, expressing interest in drafting him. Williams affirmed his mutual interest and became a 5th-round pick of Los Angeles in the first ever XFL draft. Today he wears 52 for the Wildcats and has the chance to prove that he belongs back in the league that cut him 3 times. Cardale Jones isn't necessarily a story of redemption in the traditional sense. He's never suffered a terrible injury or been kicked out of the league or beat a kid in the hospital by 60 points in NCAA football. Well, maybe he did do that last part, but competition is not a switch you can turn on and off. Cardale Jones is an example of how transient the sport of football can be. Jones never lost a game in college. He was 11-0 as a starter at Ohio State, including a national championship under his belt, and extended that streak into the XFL, winning his first 2 games with the DC Defenders. But you would imagine that a strong-arm passer who never lost a game in the Big Ten would have been highly coveted in the NFL, and once upon a time, that appeared it may have been the case. According to a 2015 report from NFL.com, Jones could have gone in the first 15 picks of the 2015 draft had he declared that year. Maybe he would have gone in the second round, one NFL executive said about Jones. But I think it's just as likely he could have gone in the top 10 or 15. Look at that body, that arm, and look at his competition. It's crazy to think a player who at the time had just 3 college starts under his belt could have been a first rounder, but that's how physically impressive he was, and still is. Jones, however, stayed another year, lost the starting job despite going 8-0, and became a 4th round pick of the Buffalo Bills before bouncing around with the Chargers, Seahawks, and finally the DC Defenders of the XFL, where he was a first round pick. Number 2 overall, in fact. As of week 2, he was 2-0 with 4 touchdown passes, 8.5 yards per pass, and a passer rating of 115. Kurt Warner stocked shelves at the Hy-Vee in Iowa. Trey Williams hauled packages in Mississippi, and Dallas Renegades quarterback Philip Nelson was an Instagram model. Nelson tossed the rock in Minnesota and briefly Rutgers, where he had to leave unceremoniously after kicking and causing brain damage to a Minnesota State player in an early morning bar fight in 2014. Finishing out his career at East Carolina, Nelson and the rest of the team struggled, but the troubled quarterback made his way to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of the CFL, where he was soon cut and left to start over in the AAF. Nelson was largely mediocre in San Diego, like the team itself, and when the league went tango uniform, Nelson had to show off his abs on the gram. And his now coach, Bob Stoops, described the situation. Nelson was not only an Instagram model, but an underwear model, so this will only enhance his followers. Nelson, who resembled Tarzan in between his playing days, sits at 5,000 followers on Instagram. Is there an award for playing in the most professional leagues possible? Well, if there was, that hardware would go to Will Hill, who puts the word journey into journeyman. After playing safety and winning a national championship with the Florida Gators, Hill wasn't drafted and ended up with the indoor football league's Arizona Rattlers. He eventually made it to the NFL with the New York Giants and Baltimore Ravens, where he enjoyed success on special teams and had a pick 6 against Drew Brees. He was, however, popped with a failed drug test and the Ravens released him. Hill would end up in the CFL with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but had behavioral issues and was released. Hill then signed with the Orlando Apollos of the AAF, and we all know what happened there. Now, Hill is a member of the St. Louis Battlehawks, having spent time in 5 different pro leagues on 6 different teams. Though he has character issues and is working on them, Hill's appearance in so many leagues certainly is interesting. And now, for our best XFL player story. Wide receiver Damon Sheehy-Giuseppe conned his way into the NFL like a real-life catch me if you can. Hold on, I'm getting word that this was in fact a true story. Are you serious? Leo really did all that? Sheehy-Giuseppe attended community college in Arizona, where he excelled as a punt return specialist, but never got a second look from the NFL. Living on the streets 2 years after his college career ended, Giuseppe took matters into his own hands and essentially lied his way into a Browns free agent tryout, claiming to know Browns exec Alonzo Highsmith, who, of course, he did not know. But when you're living outside of a gym in Miami, taking the term gym rat very literally, what's the problem with the little white lie? Sheehy-Giuseppe could do more than fool his way into the building. He had the ability to stick around, impressing Cleveland's brass and ultimately signing with the Browns in April of 2019. He also happens to be very fast. A few months later, in his first ever NFL action in week 1 of the preseason, Sheehy-Giuseppe planted his heels at the 14-yard line and caught a booming punt. Moving straight up the field and stepping out of a tackle, the former JUCO star won a foot race 86 yards to the end zone, capping off a comeback story for the ages and sending a lot of us into tears. Unfortunately, the Browns didn't have space on their roster for the long shot and waived him at the end of August, but the New York Guardians of the XFL scooped him up for the spring. Sheehy-Giuseppe is currently on injured reserve, but when he comes back, he should be scoring on plenty of returns. If you're interested in learning more about his story, please check out Flemlo Rap's in-depth video. The XFL itself is a vehicle for redemption stories, whether it's redeeming oneself in football, life, or career path. It's a second chance and, at the very least, a shot to get back into the NFL, get there for the first time, or keep putting on the gear for the love of the game. And hey, if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to Instagram. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do not forget to check out the sponsor, Manscaped, and use my code 5points for 20% off your first order and free shipping. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next video.